The measurement you need to make this trendy bubu with yoke is only the gown length, only your gown length. And after that, we need two types of fabric, one for the main body of the bubu and the other one for the yoke side. And you can decide to choose any fabric that you desire for to make this trendy bubu. For the yoke portion, you can decide to use a lace fabric or or a plain fabric, depending on what you want and how you want the bubu to come out. If you want to dress it up or really glam it up, it depends on what you want. And here I have a Ankara fabric and plain fabric. The plain fabric is for the yoke portion of the bubu. Now I have here 6 yard of Ankara fabric, 6 yard of Ankara fabric, and what I did is to cut out the back portion of the gown first. And what I did was to measure out my gown length. After measuring out my gown length, I now cut out the back portion of it and folded it into two like so. This is what I have on the table. I folded it into two, and the first thing was to measure the neck of the back of the gown, and I begin to put in my measurements. My neck width I mark out 3.5 inches, and the neck depth I made it 1.5 inch. Now the next thing is to mark out my shoulder slant. I came down here by 1 inches for the shoulder slant, and I connected my line from the shoulder slant to the neck width here. What the next thing is to mark out my sleeve width. I mark out my sleeve width, and from there I came in by 1 inch. I came in by 1 inch for the sleeve length, and I made a curve. I made a curve to mark like the armpits, like the armhole area. From where I will now mark 1 inch from the edge of the fabric inside. I mark out 1 inch along the length of the fabric like so, and I connected the lines by ruling them out to join the armhole area. This is what we have after marking out my measurement. The next thing is to cut out all my markings, and this is me cutting out the neck portion of the fabric and also my shoulder slant, and also I will cut out the 1 inch under the armpit, under the armhole area. And that is all the measurements we need to make this abaya. This is the back portion of it. Note that I did not cut out anything from the fabric apart from this that I'm cutting out from the Ankara fabric. Ankara is 45 inches by width, and it was that 45 inches that I folded into two. Note that this Ankara is a cut together. The sleeve is cut together with the body. We are not cutting a separate sleeve. So when I folded it into two, I obtained 22.5 inches on fold, and it is from that 22.5 inches that I cut out that 1 inch on the side beside it. Now the next thing I did was to work on the yoke area by folding my plain fabric into using the same measurement on the Ankara, which was 22.5. Remember that Ankara width is 45 inches. So I folded it into two by 22.5, just like it was with the Ankara, and I mark out my neck width, which was also 3.5, like I did for the back of the gown. And I also mark my shoulder slant and rule it out like so. I rule out the shoulder slants. And I also mark out my sleeve width of 10 inches like I did for the back of the gown. I mark out the 10 inches and I also mark it out on the other side in order to cut it out, and I decided to rule a straight line. I decided to rule out the line to cut out the yoke. This is me cutting out my shoulder slants, cutting out the shoulder slants and cutting out the entire yoke. Now the length of the neck is a V neck, and for me I decided to use 8 inches for the length of my V neck. For most people you can use 9 inches if you desire. You can use 9 inches or any length that you like. But I've decided to use 8 inches because I don't want it to be too deep. So I marked 8 inches and I connected it to the neck width of 3.5 inches for my V neck, and I now cut it out like so. Note that I added sewing allowance uh, to the yoke. The sewing allowance I will use to join it to the Ankara. And what I did next was to cut out the front part of the gown, the remaining portion for the front part of the gown by deducting 10 inches from my length. You know my gown length is 54 inches. I deducted the 10 inches which was for the yoke. I deducted it from the 54 inches, and the remaining measurement of 44 inches I now cut it out from my Ankara, and that's what I have on the table. And I now lay down the yoke on it to mark out to connect and draw the slant for the armhole area like so. So that I added sewing allowance of 2 inches to the Ankara in order for me to be able to hem it at the bottom of it and also join it to the yoke, which means I cut out 46 inches instead of 44 inches. I just cut out I did not, note that I did not fold my fabric twice like in some other cases. I cut out the front separate from the back. I cut out the front separately and also the back separately. This is me ruling the line for the 1 inch allowance to cut out from the gown up to the armhole area. And this is me cutting it out up to the slanted area under the armhole. This is what I have after cutting out the front of the gown. And when I place the yoke portion on it, this is what we have. Remember to put a notch at the middle of the front of the fabric like so, in order for you to know where you are going to join it to the yoke area. Also put a notch at the middle of the yoke too. Mash the notch areas together and use an office pin to pin them down in order to get the exact center of the gown while stitching them together. Use your office pin, then stitch them together like so. Also, the V portion of the neck area, I've decided I will just turn it inward. I'll turn the neck area, I'll turn it twice inside and stitch it in a very neat and slim way. Just turn it twice and stitch it down. This is the back of the this is the back portion of the gown. I will also turn the neck area at the back. I will turn it twice and stitch it down. And also join the shoulder. After turning the neck inside and stitching the neck, I will stitch down the shoulder area of the front and the back together before going to the two sides and stitching them together. I will also turn in the armhole area. I will turn them inside and stitch them down, and also the hem of the gown. This is what I have after all the sewing projects. This is what we have here. I have turned the neck area. I have stitched it down, turning it twice at the V-neck area, and also the back of the gown. The neck area at the back of the gown, I have also stitched it down, turning it twice. I decided not to use a bias tape or any or a facing. I just decided to turn them by themselves to reduce bulkiness. Also at the sleeve area, I turn it inside twice. I turn them inside and stitch them down before joining the two sides of the gown like so. You can see the side of the gown and the armhole. I already stitched them down, and also at the hem of the gown I have stitched it down. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please like, share and subscribe to this channel. God bless you.